Hi, I'm Kathy, Chill Mama, and today is day one of Chilled Birth Week. I'm doing this because I know it's really difficult if you're pregnant at the moment and thinking about giving birth, and yet you're hearing all these stories of trauma and difficulties and overworked midwives and high rates of intervention. How do you manage that as a pregnant person, as a person giving birth? And that's what I'm going to share with you today, this week. And so I know what works because it's worked for my clients, it's worked for myself. And so this week, Chilled Birth Week, is all about how to have a positive and chilled birth in 2026, whatever happens. And today, the first day, we're going to be talking about relaxing often. And you might think that's a strange one to start. Does that really make a difference? How am I going to relax in labour when my body is all contracting and I'm in pain? But actually, it is really underrated tool for birth preparation, practicing relaxation. And that's what I'm going to talk about. There are lots of benefits to practicing and doing relaxation in pregnancy. And I've got a video about that and about the benefits for you and your baby. I'm not worried about that now. Massive impact in helping reduce the amount of pain you feel. It can help labour move on, so you're less likely to need interventions. And also that if you do need interventions, having some tools up your sleeve and being able to relax can help things move along, and so that you need less intervention that you might do. But also just helps you cope as well when you're going through a difficult time. Sometimes when you're in labour, it can feel like you're being swept along a river without branches to hold on to. Practicing relaxation can make it feel like you're in a canoe. So you're still on this flowing river, but you're in a canoe or a lifeboat. I'm going to share 3 ways how practicing relaxation in pregnancy positively impacts your labour in a big way. I'm just going to lower this down. Number 1, how relaxation helps you in labour is that it gives you more oxygen to the uterus muscle. So pain in labour is because of muscle action. So if you've ever gone on a long walk, you've been to the gym or whatever, and your limbs ache while you're doing it, and that's because it's the muscle action. It's not nerve damage. So if you have a toothache or you break your arm, that's nerve damage. That's nerves that are infected in your tooth. That's what's happening. When you're in labour, we're not talking about nerve damage, it's muscle action. And when muscles are working, because the uterus muscle, at the point of at the end of your pregnancy, the uterus muscle is the biggest and strongest muscle in the human body. What do muscles need? If you ever listen to any kind of sports people and they talk about like running relaxed, and if they can get, if they get all tense, then that's not good for them. It doesn't help them. They need that oxygen. If you watch runners, they talk about, they're running and keeping their breathing. You want oxygen to get to the muscle. So relaxation can help that. Even something simple like focusing on an out breath, having a longer out, breathing out for longer. Because what happens is if we tense up, we tend to hold on to our breath, and then the oxygen's not getting to the muscle. If we can be relaxed and just breathing out in long rhythmic way, then that helps the oxygen get to the muscle and you will be in less pain. The second thing is there is something called, and I've just buried it, had it ready, there we are. I don't know if that's going to be back to front, but the pain, so the fear, stress, tense, pain. You might sometimes see it as the fear, tense, pain cycle. And that's what happens in labour. The instinct is to tense up and try and fight it and not block it or something. But when you do that, you're stopping the oxygen get to the muscle. So you tense up. Oh, I know it's painful. And then it is painful because you're tensed up. So then you fear the next contraction more and you tense up more. It's more painful and you end up in this cycle. And what relaxation can do, if you can relax in labour, then you switch it round and then you have a relax, less pain, more confidence. Relax, less pain, more confidence. This is what we talk about when we talk about riding the waves. It's getting into that rhythm. And Thursday, I'm going to talk a lot about tools to help you ride the waves or cope with whatever's happening in your labour, not just, even if you have a planned caesarean, there are tools that you can use. So that's Thursday is all about that. The third reason that relaxation helps is it helps the hormones of labour flow. So when you give birth, the more primitive part of your brain, sometimes called the reptilian brain or the amygdala, that's where labour is controlled. It controls all your bodily functions are controlled there. And what happens is your body releases oxytocin. That's the hormone of labour. The oxytocin makes your muscles relax. When you feel so much love, it's almost like your heart's contracting. That's oxytocin. When you orgasm, that's oxytocin. When you are breastfeeding, the letdown reflex around every milk cell is a slither of muscle. And when you feel that overwhelming love, it squeezes and the milk comes out. So oxytocin, and that helps labour move on. It helps the contractions get longer, stronger and closer together. Endorphins, so if this is like the accelerator of labour, endorphins are like the clutch. So endorphins are your body's natural pain relief. They're a form of opiate. And what happens is your body releases oxytocin, and then that triggers the release of endorphin, which means your labour can go up a gear. And then you release more oxytocin and more endorphins and more oxytocin and more endorphins until you get to the point of labour, when you are pushing your baby out, and then you hold your baby, and that's when. So, but adrenaline is like the brake. So if we think of a car, we've got accelerator, clutch and brake. So adrenaline, cortisol, stress hormones, they stop the release of these. So when this comes in, these drop down. And that makes sense, evolutionary wise. If you are not in a safe space, if there is a tiger around, then it's good to stop labour until you can get somewhere safe. You might have noticed, like you hear people talking about, oh, I went into hospital, but my contractions slowed down. And that's because your body was you were releasing stress hormones, which slowed down your labour. And as soon as you settle in again and then it all starts going again. The only time when it switches differently is if you are far on in labour and there is a stress. Sometimes labour can go faster, which also makes sense. If you're in the wild and you're about to give birth, then and a tiger appears, the best thing then is to just quickly hurry the birth up. And so sometimes people, they get, the doctor comes in and goes, well, I'll give you another half hour. And that's when labour suddenly, they go, oh, I can push, right. It doesn't always happen, obviously. There are a couple more analogies as well. We've got the stimulation of the neocortex. So when you go into labour, it talks about going into labour land where you can't necessarily process language or talk. And that's because this part of the brain is taken over and this part of the brain is subdued. The thinking, the cerebral cortex, neocortex, that's subdued so that your body is taken over by this primitive action. And stimulating the neocortex can actually slow down labour because it sort of wakes that part of the brain up again, and this part gets a bit dimmed. Just while we're talking about oxytocin, it's only like 10 or so years ago they discovered that melatonin, which is a hormone you release when you sleep at night, and synthesizes with oxytocin and makes more oxytocin be released, which is why more babies are born at night, which we didn't used to know, and now we know. Which is why you quite like, you know, cats give birth they find somewhere dark and quiet and warm, don't they? And we can do the same. So how does relaxation work? So relaxation, so in your brain you have like a that part of the brain, you have the rest and digest as part of the autonomic nervous system. There we are. And that's called the parasympathetic system, and that's normal. Your body's in relaxed state, normal function. But if you get stressed, then your body tips into fight and flight, and that's then the biological bodily functions that happen change. So when you're relaxed, you can digest, you can sleep, you can your heart beat is regulated. When you go into stress, it shuts down all non-essential bodily functions. So it's harder to sleep, it's harder, you don't digest, muscles pump, blood is pumped to your muscles. When and that includes, again, stopping or slowing down giving birth. So the more you can relax can switch you from being in the stressed state to being in the rest and digest state, and that's then lets the hormones of labor flow. So the more you can do to reduce this when you're in labor, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, that you will increase this, which will make it less painful and make it move along. So it doesn't matter, but it's, yeah. So even if you say you have induction, thinking about what you can do, your body's contractions happen, and not release the stress hormones. So, you know, lots of things like cuddles, kisses, they can all help massively, but also just doing some relaxation. But it is hard to relax if you haven't practiced it. The more you practice, really good research that shows the more you practice relaxation in pregnancy, the easier it is to do when you're in a stress situation. And there is research that shows that it does have an impact on your birth. So what could you do? Well, in many ways it doesn't matter. You find what relaxation works for you, but do it often. So it may be that you listen to music and you get yourself in a nice relaxed situation and you notice your body relaxing. It could be that you listen to relaxation audios or find videos on YouTube. There's loads. I particularly love Yoga Nidra. That helps me get into a deep sleep quickly. You could just do some focusing on breathing. That can really help, and breathing can help tip you from the fight, flight, stress state into the relaxed state quite quickly. And my biggest tool is to do a suggestion is to do a longer out breath, and that can be particularly helpful to switching. So taking deep breaths in and then longer breaths out, then you can find yourself calming and being more relaxed. And as you're doing it, just notice my shoulders are dropping, my hands are being more relaxed. And you can practice this even when, like, at little bits during the day. It doesn't have to be, oh, I'm going to wait till I've got time to put the candles and I've had a bath, and because that might not ever happen. So practice little bits. So when it may be when you're doing your teeth, you just think, where are my shoulders? Can I drop my shoulders? When you're driving and you stop at the traffic lights, can you just give your hands a shake and drop your shoulders, unclench your jaw? Start noticing where you hold tension and release it. When you're going to sit down and watch telly or something, then you just take a moment to think, when in your what position you're in, am I as relaxed as I can be? Could I just relax my body a bit more? Because we tend to just hold ourselves a bit in tension. And doing that, listening to your body and finding out what works for you, can be really helpful. And when you go to bed, you know, or in the shower or the bath, do some relaxation. Feel the tension flowing away from your body. Do some breathing, and that can really help you, so that when you go into labour, it's quicker. There's a thing called the feedback loop in relaxation. The more if you notice how more relaxed you are, then it becomes more effective and your body sort of gets used to it. So that can be really helpful. But any other kind of relaxation that works for you as well is good. Practice with your Braxton Hicks, particularly in late pregnancy. If you feel them, not everybody feels them, but that can be a really good time to practice doing your relaxation as well. I've come to the end. If you've got any questions about relaxation, how it can help in giving birth, do sign up for my emails, because I am I've got some freebies. I've got a discount for my Blissful Bump, which is a wonderful pregnancy relaxation resource with different relaxations to help, whether it's to relax your body, calm your mind, help you to sleep. There's some really good sleep ones there, and ones for helping you to connect to your baby in the womb. So, happy practicing, relax often, and let me know how you get on. I'm Kathy, Chill Mama. Thank you for watching.